So we are going to be recording this meeting. It is recording now. I am going to ask LSC members to keep cameras on. Everyone else, totally up to you what you choose to do if your camera is on or off. But I will ask everyone to remain on mute so that we don't have any kind of issues with sound and noise. So this is the organization meeting for the newly elected LSC that will serve until July of 2022. So this is an 18-month term, and this is a shorter term just due to coronavirus and all of those things. It's usually a full 2-year term. This is an 18-month term. So we're not used to having an org meeting in the middle of the year, but you know, as with many things we're not used to, here we find ourselves right now. So I am going to call the meeting to order. Sorry, we have people joining too, so I'm doing that at the same time. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and then I am going to ask to do a roll call. So new LSC members, if you can say your name and the constituents you represent on the LSC, and we'll do roll call in that way since it's our first time together. So I'm Mira Weber, I'm the principal. Kirsten, you want to go next? I'm just going to start calling.
Kirsten Clay, parent rep.
Thank you.
Lori Bates, parent rep.
Thank you.
Tina Holder King, parent rep.
Thank you.
Nicholas Hall, teacher rep.
Same time, Nick. Emily Holbert, teacher rep.
Cindy Watts, parent rep. Sarah Ogato, parent rep.
Thank you.
Sandra Richmond, community rep.
Kate Laszlo, parent rep.
And okay, so I have Kate, Sarah, Cindy, Kirsten, Lori, Tina, Nick, Emily, Sandra, and I believe I saw Mac, but I don't know if we heard from Mac. There's Mac.
Mac Laboon, community rep.
Thank you. And Marilyn Rosario Caro, who is our non-teacher rep, will not be in attendance this evening. So the first thing that we do during an organizational meeting is selection of a temporary chairperson. And then after this point, the temporary chair runs it until we select the chair. So we can either select a temporary chair at this time, or I can just continue through until we do the nominations for the real chair, but either way, we kind of have to discuss that. So is there a nomination for a temporary chair or a motion to maintain the principal as temporary chair?
I move to maintain the principal as temporary chair.
Okay.
I second.
Thank you.
I second.
Oh, sorry, that's me. All in favor of the principal maintaining temporary chair position, raise your hands. Oh gosh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All opposed? All abstain? Okay. So then what we'll do is go ahead and have a selection of a temporary secretary so that I'm not continuously writing notes at the same time. Is there a nomination for a temporary secretary? Well, then I'm going to nominate Tina Holder King because she's done it before. So I'm going to nominate Tina as temporary secretary.
I will second the nomination as Tina as temporary secretary.
Tina, do you accept the motion or nomination? I mean, great. All in favor? Show of hands. Wonderful. Okay. At this point, then I move to approve the agenda for the organization meeting on January 13th, 2021. Is there a second? Lori seconds. Thank you, Lori. I keep forgetting, any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I have a question, Mira. I know we have listed specifically the election or selection of chairperson, secretary, and optional vice chair and FYOMA officer.
Correct.
But I wanted to at least have the discussion of selection of a sergeant at arms. And I know I don't know if it's addressed in our bylaws or the rules of order, just wanting to know at what point we could address that, if we need to modify the agenda or how we can handle that.
Well, that's a new one for me, Tina. So we can motion to amend the agenda to discuss it, but it's not anything we could vote on because it wasn't on the agenda. Or we could add it as a discussion and voting item to an agenda for the following meeting if we chose to go that route. I'm actually going to ask Jose Ortiz is on this call, and I'm going to ask that Jose, am I correct in that he's our LSC representative? Sorry.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Jose Ortiz, LSC Relations. Yeah, the sergeant at arms, actually, it's a position that's on the bylaws. So the council can actually engage in a conversation. I haven't seen the agenda for today, but my guess is it's not on the agenda. It's not something that a lot of LSCs discuss. So what I would recommend is perhaps in your next meeting, you can always bring it up, put it on the agenda, and then engage in a discussion with the rest of the LSC. And that is for everything. I mean, usually during the organizational meeting, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you select your chairperson, your secretary, the main roles, the main officer roles. And then, down the road, I mean, if you want to create another position, you can always bring it up.
Okay, so I guess I would put, Tina, let's add that as an action item or something to add to the next agenda then as something that would be listed so that it could be discussed and voted on. Is everyone okay with that? I'm just kind of looking around to see if I'm. Okay.
Can I just ask what would a sergeant at arms do? What is their role, Tina?
I think that, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
But I think that would be the discussion at the next meeting is as an agenda item to discuss it and then to vote. I don't think we technically, if we don't amend the agenda, I don't think we technically do that here.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine, thank you.
But we'll just say as an,
There's information in the LSC guidance that describes the role.
Thanks, Tina. Sorry. Sarah, did you have something to say? Sorry. No? Okay. So I'm just writing it down for it to be on the actual agenda for next time as well. So we did have a motion to approve the agenda and a second on the table before we had the discussion. Is there a motion to approve the agenda then?
I just wanted to, actually, I had another question about the bylaws. It says to adopt or re-adopt bylaws. It's so when we talk about the idea of re-adopt, does that mean we are going to look at the idea of updating those or revising those? I just wasn't clear on this adopt, re-adopt verbiage. And
Yeah,
it's the same case for the point number 12, adopt,
Yeah.
re-adopt.
Yeah, so this is the standard organization agenda from Chicago Public Schools. So we can either use the bylaws as written, the ones that were disseminated, or we can have a discussion about changing them, adapting them, and thing. But the way they were sent is the general CPS bylaws. And then the purpose of tonight is to discuss if we want to tweak them. And if so, if there's a motion to do all of that. And that's why it's on the agenda.
Okay, so re-adopt means to edit, adopt means to accept as they are. Okay, just want to clarify. Thank you.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, Mira,
Yep.
if we decide to, I'm sorry, my daughter's phone is connected to my computer. If we decide to re-adopt and that there need to be changes to the bylaws, is there a requirement that some sort of bylaws be adopted tonight, or would that be formation of a committee and taking the time? Oh my gosh, it's gonna drive me crazy. Taking the time to to have a committee get together and try to come up with the revisions and bring it back. So we don't have to adopt them tonight. Is that correct?
Correct. So we could, if we chose to, we could also choose to take time to look at them and then come back at a separate meeting and adopt them. Any other questions on the motion?
I just have a quick question. I mean, I know this is our first meeting and we're kind of getting the flow of it. Jose, is it possible to answer a question if it's not on the agenda? I felt like it was a really valid question. What's a sergeant at arms? And I felt like we're not allowed to answer a basic question if it's not on the agenda. But if that's the way that we're going to hold an LSC meeting, that really limits anything that we can accomplish, because this is when we're getting together. I'm staring at you, Jose. That's how we communicate and do things. And I feel like if we're going to be setting our first meeting up with the standard that a basic question cannot be answered if it's not on the agenda, we're really limiting ourselves and our effectiveness right out the door.
Go ahead, Jose.
Well, I think that just, I guess, for the sake of time and just respecting what's on the agenda, I mean, I do believe that you want to make sure that you stay, there's a structure. So, sometimes, and I'm just being general here, obviously, sometimes it's just a question, yes or no answer, but sometimes, you might have a discussion that it's really not part of the agenda out of just questions and comments. So I think that, if you ask me, I mean, I always recommend councils to, obviously engage in the conversation of what's on the agenda. Mr. Hall, did ask a question, it's a good question, right? It's an important question. I do think that in this particular topic, you probably want to add it on the agenda, and then just at that point in the next meeting agenda, and at that point you can always engage back and forth, and at that point it's already part of the meeting's agenda. So I mean, I am the big proponent of following the agenda as it is. Sometimes you might have a question that might be a yes or no question, and that's okay. But I think at the end of the day, as a council, I think you want to be able to make sure that you have a structured meeting. That way, anybody who's watching as an audience, as a public, also understands that, hey, I'm here listening to what's actually the agenda and not any other topic. So that is my opinion on the matter.
Thanks, Jose. Thanks, Lori. Okay, so there was a first and a second to approve the agenda. Then we had discussion. Are we ready to vote? Or is there any other discussion points?
One other question with the rules of order. Is it the same as with the bylaws, that it doesn't have to be adopted tonight?
Correct. And just so people understand, the rules of order is not a standard CPS. That is a document that an LSC, I believe it was 3 LSCs ago, maybe, put into place. And we've always just added that as an organizational item now for our LSCs. It is not a standard CPS document. But yes, Tina. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, so all in favor of approval of the agenda? Okay. Thank you. All right, so now we
need to count, Mira, for the minutes.
I'm sorry, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 me. Wait, did I do that wrong? 11, sorry, yep, 11. Any abstain? Any no's? Those were all zeros. Okay, so then at this point, we will move to nominations and selection of the chairperson. So I'll open the floor for any nominations.
I would like to nominate Tina Holder King as to serve as chair for the LSC.
Okay. Is there, oh wait.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I think that was Lori, yes? Okay, Lori. Tino, do you accept? And then we'll see if there's other nominations. Do you accept the nomination? Yes. Okay, great. Tina accepts. Are there any other nominations for chairperson? No other nominations. Are there any discussions on, or Tina, do you want to say anything?
Just appreciate the vote of confidence.
Wonderful. Any questions or discussion on the nomination of Tina as chair? Okay. Then we will go ahead and vote. So at this time, by show of hands, please raise your hand if you are voting yes for Tina as chair. Okay, hold on, I'm counting. Yes. Any no votes? And I am abstaining, so that's one abstention. Thank you. Tina, I'm handing it over to you to move on to number 7.
Okay, thank you. So next on the agenda is nominations and selection of the secretary. Do we have any nominations for that position? Oh, wait, did I? Oh, no, that's right, yeah. Any nominations for that position?
I nominate Mac. I don't know if he'll accept it, but I nominate Mac as secretary.
Is there a second? Or Mac, would you like to chime in?
Procedurally, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to respond right now. First, thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. I was potentially interested in the Sergeant at Arms position, which I believe we'll discuss next month.
Kate, I think I saw your hand up. Did you have something? I can't fit you on my screen, but
I had another nomination.
okay.
I was going to nominate Sarah Oghetto.
I'll second the nomination for Sarah.
Sarah, do you accept the nomination?
It is a big responsibility being the record keeper for the work here. I would like to actually nominate Lori potentially if she's interested.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at anyone in particular. It's
You
just
just laugh at my reaction.
no one wants.
I would also like to say thank you. I have a certain set of skills, and you will see my certain set of skills, and taking the minutes is not my certain set of skills. I love you all.
And
I
I
take
just
notes
say
if
one
you
thing.
guys need.
I apologize. I was thinking that we were doing vice chair because my internet went out for a minute, and that's what I meant to nominate Sarah Oghetto for. So I am sorry.
No worries. Technology, right?
No,
Sandra, did you have something? I thought I saw you.
It seems to be an unpopular role. I'm happy to take notes if you need someone to take notes.
Thank you, Sandra.
That would be great.
and I nominate Sandra. Sorry.
Who
Since
said
I
that?
messed everything up, I nominate Sandra.
Okay, was that Kate?
Yes.
Okay, I second that nomination. Okay, is there any discussion? Sorry, we've had some already. Is there any discussion?
Just thanks for taking that on.
Okay, I'll put the motion to vote. All in favor of Sandra as secretary, raise your hand, please. Okay. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay. Sandra, did you vote? Because I didn't see a hand if you did.
I didn't know if I could vote for myself.
Of course you can. Okay, so we have 10 yes and 1 abstain. The motion carries. Thank you so much, Sandra. Appreciate it. And you are up right away. I am going to stop taking notes now and pass that torch to you. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item is nomination and selection of vice chair, which is an optional position. Are there any nominations?
I'll nominate Sarah. I was looking at you, Kate. I'm like, you just did it earlier.
Is there a second? Mac has seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, well, the motion up for vote is Sarah as vice. Well, Sarah, is there anything you'd like to say? I'm sorry.
It's a big charge. Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you.
Lori, did you have something?
No, just happy.
Oh, okay. Okay. The motion on the floor is for Sarah to serve as vice chair. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, the motion carries with a yes vote of 10. The next item on the agenda is nomination and selection of FOIA OMA officer. Are there any nominations?
May I nominate Lori again with support?
Lori denies, is that the word? Rejects the nomination? Is that allowed? It's allowed. I reject the nomination.
Kleins, I think.
I'd like to nominate Nick. Is there a second? Or Nick, are you going to shoot it down?
How much, I think I was reading about it, and I do believe there is training involved, right? Do you know how much training?
It is.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was going to say it's not a long training. It's online. It's about an hour or two.
Okay. I will accept the nomination.
Sarah, did I see your hand for seconding the nomination?
A second, yeah.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion for Nick to be the FOIA officer?
Will you give me guidance on where the training is? Is that something easy to find? Sarah, you will? Okay, great. I'll just connect with you, Sarah, then to get the training.
While we're discussing the matter, I also want to encourage every member to go through the training so that we all know what's expected and we can support Nick however he expresses he needs support. That will be up to him, but I do strongly encourage that every member go through the training. Any additional discussion? Okay, the motion on the floor is for Nick to be the FOIA OMA officer. All in favor? Okay, that's 10. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries for Nick to be the FOIA OMA officer with 10 votes in favor and 1 abstain. The next item on the agenda, item number 10, is to set the regular meeting schedule for the school year. I know Mira sent out a form ahead of time to all the council members with proposed dates and times. In addition to the meeting that we're having now, the times or the dates on that file are February 3rd, March 3rd, April 7th, May 5th, and June 2nd. And all of those are at 6 p.m. and are indicated to be via Zoom. Is there a motion, or I can motion?
Motion to approve the meeting dates as set forward.
Is there a second?
Well,
I'm sorry, was there a second?
I second.
Kate did, yes. Kate did, Tina.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you, Kate. Thanks, Nick. Okay, is there discussion?
Are there thoughts on, I'm assuming that we're going to be remote through all of this, about a daytime meeting? Are we comfortable with only evening attendance?
I proposed all evening, just as we had kind of talked about in July, just going into this year, because we weren't necessarily sure of a good time. A lot of times when we did morning meetings, it was right after drop off. We don't really have drop off anymore. So we left it at evening for this year, with the idea that we'd revisit that once, or hopefully when things are a little more normalized. But that was kind of the intention behind leaving them all at night this year.
Awesome. I just wanted to make sure that because I wasn't part of the July meeting,
Yeah, no, sorry. Yep.
that once life resumes, that we will have some shift in the availability. Great.
Any additional discussion? Okay, the motion on the floor is to adopt the regular meeting schedule as provided before this meeting by Mira via email, and the dates that I indicated at the beginning of this agenda item. All in favor? That is 11 in favor, which means the motion carries unanimously. No votes, no one abstaining. The next item on the agenda is to adopt or re-adopt bylaws or establish a bylaws committee. Would anyone like to put a motion on the floor?
I would like to motion to convene a bylaws committee, just to review the bylaws again, and to make sure that they're meaningful and appropriate for this body.
I second that motion. Discussion.
Totally agree. Second that. Let's do that.
Can I clarify, is this the point where we would clarify at what point we would then propose new bylaws? Like how long we go without bylaws per se? Is it next meeting? Is it?
Yeah, I would think this would be the point that we discuss who's going to be on the committee, or the number of people who's interested on being on the committee, when the committee is going to reconvene with suggestions to the council, because of course the committee won't approve the bylaws. They will come back to the council with recommendation, and we'll discuss and vote at that time.
Yeah, and I do hear the urgency of making sure that we have bylaws in order, and probably would be fortuitous to either have those recommendations prepared and presented for the next LSC meeting, no later than the LSC meeting in March, but ideally the next LSC meeting in February, which would require, I would foresee a couple or a few times for folks to connect in between that month's time frame.
I have a couple of questions, I think similar to what Mira was asking. So, if we approve to have a committee and review the bylaws So are we currently operating with no bylaws, and is that allowed? I don't know if Jose can answer that. Like,
Jose?
can we run LSC meetings with no LSC bylaws?
I think we function under these standard bylaws until we have new bylaws, but I'll let
So
Jose clarify.
that is, so you have bylaws already. So every council has bylaws. So even if this council, the Council Agassiz adopted bylaws, a few years ago, and if you kept them, they're still there. You know what I mean? But the organization meeting is just a way for you to, if you want to review them, if you want to create a committee just to talk about them, So this is a good opportunity. So you do have bylaws. They're the district-wide bylaws that applies to all LSCs, and then. I don't know if you as a council, had already bylaws from a few years ago, but those are still operating.
So we did vote on bylaws at the last organizational meeting. So do those still apply?
They do.
The ones we were using last month, for example, they still apply until we adopt
still apply.
new bylaws.
Yeah, they're still current until you meet, and then you decide to make some changes. Yep.
Okay.
And then one recommendation, when you're doing virtual meetings, my recommendation and the recommendation of the LSC department is to do a roll call. So call each person and then just ask for a vote. But you're doing a great job with raising your hand. I think it's working perfectly. But that's just a recommendation we always give to council. So.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for the additional clarification, Jose. Further discussion on I'm sorry, did someone need to chime in?
No, so I'm just wondering if we vote first to have a committee and then we decide who's on it, or?
Maybe discuss a few more particulars about the committee. So then we can have an informed vote of whether or not that's what we want to do. Sarah, since this was your motion, just wondering if if you would be willing to guide that committee, and also just wondering if you had any thoughts on the makeup of that committee. How many members? Of course, we have to be cognizant of the number of council members on the committee when it comes to meetings and being subject to the FOIA and the OMA.
Yeah, I would be more than happy to, help, move that committee along and kind of coordinate that work. Recommendations in terms of size of committee, 4 to 5. I know that in terms of communication within, and Jose, correct me if I'm wrong, communication within 3 or more, that has to go to a larger group. But for committee work, I'm not quite clear about the nuances about, it says in the LSC manual, between 6 and 15. I think that's a lot of people, but we can go broader than that, but I don't think that's applicable per se. My recommendation would be, between 4 and 5 people in total. But that's just my recommendation, and would be, once again, willing to coordinate the effort.
And just to clarify, Sarah, a couple things. So when you say 4 or 5 people, are you thinking 4 or 5 council members? Like the bylaws committee would be all members of the council, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then just because the motion, I was just wondering, your feel for the need for a committee, is it just kind of an annual review of the bylaws, or are there or do you have concerns with our current bylaws?
I just think it would be for purposes of review. If there are recommendations, we would definitely put that forward. I think our bylaws have some good guideposts and structures there. But once again, really different group, and just wanting to make sure that it's meaningful and appropriate for the school in general.
I know that I had looked at them, and I was going to bring up that I wanted to have a committee so that we can look. There was like little things like community feedback is only 20 minutes. We need more than 20 minutes for people to be able to do public participation. Like those kind of things, especially because if we're talking about sticking to agendas and all those things, we need to make sure that our bylaws give us some room and some leeway to make things happen.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Thank you, Sarah.
Any additional discussion?
I have a question that I'm not sure if is related to the bylaws or I'm not sure. Has the LSC email account been turned over to, I guess, like, do we have access to that?
No, we have to get that from the former chair.
Okay. Okay. Will we have that before the next meeting?
I'll definitely follow up on that right away.
Yeah, I think if it's listed as an action item, right, just transfer from Oliver to Tina, the LSC email account.
So we're pretty far away from the motion that was on the table. Can we, I don't feel like we're following a train of thought.
Thank you, Kirsten. That was a good point. The motion on the floor is for there to be a bylaws committee that will be in the discussion. It will be kind of coordinated by Sarah, and that is the motion on the floor. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's try this again. New chair, hang on. We're going, the motion on the floor is for the committee for bylaws. So I'm going to call each attending council member and ask for your vote. Mira?
Tina, just to confirm, was there a second on the motion?
Yes, I think I and Lori both seconded the motion.
Just making sure. Okay, sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Mac. So we'll do a roll call for voting. Mira?
Abstain.
Lori?
Yes.
Kirsten?
Yes.
Nick?
No?
Sarah?
Yes.
Mac?
Aye.
I'm sorry?
Aye.
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. My sound broke up a little bit. Thank you. Emily?
Abstain.
Sandra?
Abstain.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
And I am voting yes. Sandra, can you tell me the tally for that, please?
7 yes, 1 no, 3 abstentions.
Okay, with the count of 7, 1, and 3, the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is to adopt or readopt the rules of order for LSC meetings. Is there a motion on the floor?
I motion to adopt our current rules of order.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Sorry, Mira, second. Sorry, I didn't say my name.
Discussion?
I kind of wouldn't mind just having a little more time, just like with the bylaws, to take a look at what was created, who it was created by, and how we feel as a team of what that will look like. So that's my thoughts.
Can you clarify what you mean, like another month to look at? I mean, I get that on
Yeah, I would like to, the same way that we are looking at our bylaws, I think that we should take a look at before we approve it all and see if there's discussions or if there's room for growth. But that's just me. Anybody else?
Would you like to would you like to move that the current motion be amended, Lori?
Sure, I move that the current motion be amended
To,
to form a committee to, I'm trying to talk fancy, to go over the rules of order for our LSC. Did I say it right? Thanks, Tina.
there's no wrong way, whatever your motion is.
There's clearly a wrong one.
You said it right.
So yeah, I would say that I would like to have a discussion, have a committee or a discussion on, before we approve the rules of order, that we talk about them.
I second that motion. So there is a motion to amend the original motion to establish a committee for review of rules of order prior to adoption by this council. Is there discussion on the proposed amended motion? One point I would raise is just a suggestion that the same committee addressing the bylaws also address the rules of order, just for efficiency's sake, if nothing else.
I second that brilliant idea.
Okay, so is there any additional discussion on the proposed amended motion? Okay, we will vote on the amended motion. So we're voting on whether or not to amend the original motion of adopting the bylaws to a motion of having a committee review of the bylaws prior to adoption. So we will now vote on that motion. We'll vote by roll call. Mira?
Sure, yes.
Lori?
Yes?
Kirsten?
Yes.
Nick?
No.
Sarah?
Yes.
Mac?
Yes.
Emily?
Abstain.
Sandra?
I got a little lost. Can you please repeat the motion?
No problem. So we're voting on the motion to amend the original motion. So the original motion was to adopt the rules of order. And so Lori motion to amend the original motion to that the rules of order would be reviewed by committee for possible modification. So we're voting on whether or not to accept the amended motion. We are not voting on whether or not we're not voting on the motion itself. We're voting on accepting the amended motion.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
That's why you're our leader.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. Sandra, can you give the tally, please?
Yep, 1 no, 1 abstention, and 9 yeses.
Okay, thank you very much. The motion to amend the original motion carries. So now the motion on the floor is for the bylaws to be reviewed by committee and to be adopted following that review. Is there additional discussion on the motion?
Do we want to put a timeline on that?
I'm sorry?
Do we want to put a timeline on that?
That's a very good point. You want to lead that discussion?
Yeah, I think, Sarah, what are your thoughts about the committee for the bylaws in terms of time? I know that you ideally would be February, but we're maybe thinking March. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think given folks' availability, to have a decent convening, it would be nice to have at least a couple, if not 3 times to connect and review and discuss. So March probably would be our goal date. But once again, if folks feel ambitious about it, I mean, we could shoot for February. That would be very ambitious. I think it would be nice to know interests from folks who would want to serve on the committee, and then we can move from there. But yeah.
I have a thought that it would be nice to at least have one, this is our organizational meeting and we're obviously just feeling our way around, working with each other, to have another meeting to see how it's flowing so that we have more of a experience when we're going through. So March to me would seem like a fair chance. That would give us the February meeting to practice some more and figure out who we are, and then be able to answer some more questions. Because I think a lot of people are completely new to the world of this, and that would be good for us to get a little bit of traction first.
I agree. I think March sounds like a good for follow through.
And Lori, I like that idea because it's true. I've been operating under these rules and bylaws for 4 years now. But yeah, so that way we have a couple meetings, or we're going by our current ones, and we can see, what we do have to amend or change. So I like that idea.
Yeah, it's hard because I served on a very different LSC as vice chair for 6 years, and it was a very different, the way that it was run, even though we were really on it and professional, it was very different vibe and feeling. So I think it would be great for us to build our team and see how that all works together and what's best for our school.
That's an excellent point. Are there interests from folks who, I don't know if this would be the time or the place. I mean, I can follow up via email, or send a large email to the group and see where those interests are, and availability.
I think it's a good idea to get at least the names of those interested here. That way we don't have to worry about having a discussion of LSC business over email in a larger group. So I think if you could get those interested people at this meeting, that would be great.
Just a point of order, we haven't yet voted on the motion to have the committee. We voted on the motion to amend my motion, but so I think before we start discussing who's going to be on it, we just need to take the vote and make sure it passes before we talk about who's going to be on it.
Concur.
Alrighty. So the motion on the floor is again to have, was there any additional discussion? Let me switch my screen. Okay, the motion on the floor is again to have a committee review the rules of order for possible edits prior to adopting them as a LSC. We'll do a roll call for voting. Mira?
I'll abstain.
Lori?
Yes.
Kirsten?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Sarah? Mac?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Sandra, can you give us the count, please?
Yeah, 10 yes, 1 abstain, 0 no's.
Okay, by that count, as detailed by Sandra, the motion carries. Just before we move on to the next item, could those interested in being on that committee please raise your hand? So right now I see Nick, Sarah, Kirsten, Lori, Cindy, and Kate.
I would love to say I'll be there. However, depending on a reopening plan, I cannot commit probably my time in the next couple of weeks. So depending on timing, happy to assist, but I don't want to hold up a committee from meeting on that.
Thank you, Mira. Sarah, did you get those names?
I have Nick, Kirsten, Lori, Cindy, and Kate.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, the next item is to announce the date of the first regular meeting. And that meeting will be February 3rd at 6 p.m. One item that I would like to suggest for that agenda, actually more than one item I'd like to suggest for the agenda, I guess I capture as action items or items for the agenda.
Tina, do you want to do that? Sorry, do you want to do that now, or do you want to do that after public so that we can review any of those items also before adjourning, or no? Sorry,
if I could just go ahead and get them down now, then we can go through public participation. So one thing I would like to have on the agenda is the discussion for and decision on standing agenda items. So I would implore all the council to give that some thought before the next meeting, those items that we would like to see as standing agenda items so that we could vote on those. And also I'd like to have on the agenda voting and discussion on committees. So any committees that people would like to see organize and or lead and participate in, I would like to have an agenda item for that full discussion and vote. Let's see.
Okay. And also Sergeant at Arms.
Yeah, yes, that one should be on the agenda for discussion as well.
Tina, is there a way to ask, can we have a way of sharing that information with the school community? I think that there will be a lot of people who have ideas about what committees and what things they'd like represented. So maybe we could ask them to email the LSC beforehand so we can bring those into the discussion and have them ready for the agenda.
Don't we have to decide that we're doing committees first?
Well, I think I think it's a good idea, but to the broader point, I would say in general, I would encourage parents, community members, staff, anyone going forward to reach out to the LSC email address for any feedback, including suggestions on committees that you'd like to see. Even if we don't end up having committees, it would be good information to have that we could possibly act on in a different way, or at least discuss items that we need to. So I think that is an avenue that would be good to use, that LSC email. Additionally, I would encourage members to reach out individually to parent communities, staff that they have relationships with to get that feedback as well. It doesn't have to be a formal process or avenue, but we welcome the feedback. Let's see. Okay, so I didn't have any other action items. Did anyone else have anything that they would like to see added to the agenda?
I do have one thing, and I don't know if it just kind of put on the radar. I don't know if it has to be on the next meeting, but I noticed on one of the fundraising forms that we're going to look at in the next item, I believe, mentions our strategic plan. And I was looking at our strategic plan, and it's usually like we review it once a year. So we reviewed it in March 2019. And then as we all know, March 2020 happened and things fell by the wayside. So that would definitely be something either for February, or maybe we put it on March. That way it's kind of just to put on our radar. We do have to at some point review our strategic plan. It is now, almost 2 years old. So
I'm going to inject that I think we hold off on too much for February. It's potentially 2 days after students potentially return. Regardless, it's potentially 2 days after a whole big shift in a lot of things. So I would respectfully ask that yes, we definitely need to do that, but I don't think we should be loading our plates too heavily right away when we have a very big lift coming, regardless of what that lift is going to look like.
Great. Yeah, good point. I kind of just hadn't honestly thought of it too much until I saw it mentioned in the fundraising proposal.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
it definitely has to happen. I don't know how much we can bite off in the next couple of weeks is
sounds like a
my
plan.
thinking.
I understand that and totally agree, but also because we can't talk about anything unless it's not on the agenda. So could we put on the agenda talking about LSC communication? How are we going to be sharing our meetings, our minutes, our agendas? What is the best avenues and what will be the strategic plan for LSC communications with parents and staff and shareholders, stakeholders?
Can I follow up on that? And are we going to be recording all of our meetings?
Yes, they're recording.
Okay, and we will continue to do that?
Yeah, they're all on Zoom, so they're all recorded.
Great, okay.
Okay, anything else from anyone?
I did hear Nick mention a little bit of fundraising. I think that's always a standing agenda item. If we didn't mention it before, I just wanted to bring it forward.
And the Friends of, ABC, whatever, what the name is, that they should also have a standing agenda item.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next item, which is fundraising. Friends of Bulldog proposals will be discussed and voted on. Mira did provide the one fundraiser for the assistance program fund. The information was sent out prior to the meeting. Is there a motion?
There's two fundraisers. Do you want to talk about them separately? Sorry. There was the assistance fund, which we've talked about before. It's not really an event. It's setting aside money from funds that we raise. But then there's also the specific pledge drive, which isn't one event, but would be a new approval.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Just
okay. Maybe I don't.
So for the assistance fund, sorry, just to clarify, the assistance fund, we had already kind of approved that we wanted to have an assistance fund. This is specifying that the amount 10% of the funds raised from the fundraisers will go to the assistance fund. But the other proposal, which is about the pledge drive, is the actual new event, so to say, although it's not one event. It lasts over a 3-week period. I believe it's 3 weeks. And that is the one that we haven't spoken about. We typically do a pledge drive. It would look and feel a little different, being that we're all in a different setting, but we have not yet approved the actual pledge drive for this year at all.
Okay, I don't know how I missed that. It was in the same email?
Yes.
Okay, my apologies. Okay, let's do them separately. Is there one you'd like to motion up first?
Sure. So I would approve the assistance fund, which is again 10% of the funds raised would go to this account, which is really going to be used for families who are in need, who either identify a need for clothing or things of that nature, potentially food delivery, things like that. And so we'd be setting aside money that we would be able to then use to assist our families that are otherwise in need. So I motion to approve that.
Is there a second?
I second. I second.
So the motion is to approve the described money to be used for the assistance program fund as detailed in the information Mira provided. Is there discussion on the motion? Questions, discussion?
I had a quick question. So I know on the flyer, it says, the fund is managed by Mira and FOB president. So that would be Patty. So would you also be Patty and Mira? Are you also then is that who people return to with needs and you would make the decision on how would the determination of, food, clothes, gift cards, whatever goes to these families in need, how is that decided?
Yeah, so we talked about that, and Patty, I don't mind speaking, and chime in at any point, but we did talk about that, that it would technically, so if direct outreach would go through myself for confidentiality, but that I would then work with Patty because the funds would live in the Friends of Bulldogs account. And so we could figure out let's say it's clothing, they send us a link for something that could be delivered to the school for the family to then pick up, so that we're not violating any kind of confidentiality agreements, but that because the funds would live in the FOB account, Patty and I would be in collaboration on that.
Is there is there a process for requesting assistance, or a process for determining acceptance of fulfilling that request?
Yeah. So what we've done, what we just did when we first kind of talked about establishing this was a link in one of my surveys that people filled out. And then I followed up with those families and they submitted links to specific items that we were able to purchase. And then moving forward, our thought is that it would be, you know, the school-based would be checking on income forms and free and reduced lunch and things of those nature. But that if we have funds available, our idea is that we wouldn't want to turn anyone away if we don't have to. But we would start with kind of that as a base level layer of determination.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I don't know why.
And also, are there any parameters around the type of assistance that can be requested?
Yeah, I mean, I would think like we can't buy rent. We can't pay rent or things like that. It would be for more tangible items such as food or clothing or children's clothing or backpacks or things like that.
So it's goods, not cash.
Yes. Good way of saying it. Thank you. Yes.
Mira, did you attach the flyer along with so they could see? Okay.
This guy? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry, just a question. So there wouldn't be cash, but there would be gift card options for food and things like that.
Like for a specific location, like a place. Yeah.
Okay.
So in other words, if it were like clothing or something that were needed in that way, like a Walmart or a Target gift card would be something like, it would be like that. I don't think we were really limiting ourselves. We put that on the flyer to make it easy to read for those in need that want to do it. And also we will also accept donations from the community, because I've had requests for people who wanted to donate specifically to that assistant fund. So we wanted to kind of, at this point, since it's still new for us, we don't know what it's going to look like and how many requests we're going to actually have. So like Mira said, our goal is to try to accommodate everyone who needs it. And since Mira and I are the only ones that will see it, we're hoping, you know, I think maybe some might feel a little concerned reaching out if they think it's, you know, all of FOB is looking at this, or, you know, a larger group. And we're trying to just make it more accessible and less, you know, calling out anyone that needs any help, basically.
Can I ask?
It's not just for you know, families at the school. It's for staff and anyone else who might need it associated with the school.
Can I ask, would it be possible to put any, like, I completely understand with the confidentiality and we want people to feel comfortable reaching out, but if it would be possible, like if it's an ask over any certain dollar amount, that like you blind it, like you don't say who the person is, it's just the request, and have kind of a committee or something approve it. Do you know what I'm saying? Just so it seems a little bit more transparent. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think I understand. Can you explain?
Like, I mean, I guess I'm thinking if this is like smaller dollar items and people are submitting a request, that's fine. But if there was a larger request for a good reason that we felt like we wanted to approve, that you could just strip all the identifying information off the request and just have like a committee of more than a couple of people looking it over to approve. Just, I don't feel this way, but I think there are some parents that if 10% of everything they give to Agassiz is going to this fund, that they might want a little bit more transparency of what kind of things are being are being approved. And so I think there's ways to strip all the identifying information and have kind of a committee that looks at any larger dollar items with a little bit more of a strict parameters, or if there's an exception. But I'm just saying I could see some larger dollar item things being completely appropriate, but just kind of having a little bit more structure to it so that people would feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think when Patty and I met, this was like a starting point just to kind of get it up and running and publicized, because we didn't want to like keep not publicizing because we didn't
Right.
have everything completely figured out. But I definitely understand what you're saying. We didn't really want to hold up the process, because you know what I mean? But
Yes, no, I completely agree. I just feel like I could see some people asking those questions and I think they would be fair. And so kind of having that kind of structure in there from the beginning would probably help.
Lori, did you have something
to throw into that? The opposite is that I feel like it's putting Patty and Mira in a spot where somebody could say, hey, they don't like me, so my request was denied. When it's just the two of you, it puts a lot of pressure on that you two are the only gatekeepers. And there will be people who feel like, wait a minute, I only got $50 and so I found out got 100. I think that just puts more protections in for you from like an HR perspective.
Yeah.
So that you have more people protecting the two of you and then the organization as a whole. And also I'm assuming that these will be sent out in Spanish and whatever primary languages that they're translated. I know the flyer for us was all in English, but that we have it translated into other languages as well.
One question for, I guess, Patty. Would this be part of, could this potentially be part of the FOB report if we were to have like a standing item, agenda item, or if you were to come to LSC with a FOB report? Again, not any of the confidential information, but just kind of a recap of this number of families were helped. This was the outgoing support amount, in total, something like that, just again, to give a little more transparency and to publicize the availability and the desire to help.
Yes, absolutely, it would. And, if FOB was on the agenda as it had been in years before, we would always provide a report along with a P&L report, profit and loss. So you would also get even more transparency there. We still, of course, provide that information at all of our FOB meetings. And, but yes, yes, we would love that actually, to be able to do that, so.
Any additional discussion on the motion?
I would just add, I like the idea of having it reported out, Gina. I would like to see it as its own report. So it's separate from, like, we know the money is coming from FOB, so that way we get a clear, like, this month the Agassiz assistance program provided support to 25 families, across the school. That way, like, we still get the, P&L and all of that from FOB, but that way it's kind of keeping it in its, since it is a joint kind of FOB school thing. That would just be my suggestion, is kind of keeping it as separate as possible. And so tonight we're just voting on, like, approving the program, right? Knowing that there's still, some things that need to be clarified out, like the exact process and things like that, right? It's just kind of getting it off the ground.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So that is the motion on the floor. Thank you, Nick. Is there any additional discussion?
I was going to say, should we move to motion or a second?
Well, I motioned. I think someone seconded.
I second the motion.
I'm
Can
sorry.
I just say one thing before we move on? I just think this is a really great program, and I'm really thankful for Patty and Mira working on getting this off the ground. I think it's fantastic, and I think goes to some of our IB principles about what we should be doing, how we should be treating each other, and what we can innovative ideas to kind of help each other out. So I think that's great.
Absolutely.
I also just wanted to add really quickly that we have not had a full discussion yet with the FOB board. Mira and I have just met preliminary to discuss this, and we needed to get this approved. So we haven't discussed it as a board yet. I mean, we've had some conversations, but once there's more clarity from the board, I will also share that with the LSC.
Thank you. Any additional comments, discussion, questions? Okay, we will vote on the motion to accept the assistance program fund specific funding and kickoff as presented in the information sent out by Mira. We'll vote by roll call. Mira,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Kirsten,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Matt,
Yep.
Emily,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well. Sandra, can you give us the count?
Unanimous, yes. No abstentions, no no's.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much. Okay, Mira, would you like to motion the second?
Sure. So,
fundraiser?
yep. So the second fundraiser is the pledge drive. It would be kicking off February 12th, and again, wrapping around the Valentine's idea of I love our school community, or I heart our school community. Patty and I have talked briefly about a few different ways to promote and tie it to our school, and still wrap it around the Valentine's holiday. Funds would be directly tied to the strategic plan at this point, so that we still have some flexibility. We spoke a lot about not knowing budgets for next year and not knowing if we're going to be in a remote environment, and how much of our funding have gone to technology this year because of the remote environment. So we are still talking about incentive prizes, but thinking we could also tie them to new school name, as that will hopefully be voted on in a March board meeting. So more to be discussed at the Friends of Bulldogs meeting tomorrow, but wanting to get it approved tonight so we could start the planning and more of the planning and publicity. So I motion to approve that.
Is there a second? Okay, Lori second the motion. Any discussion?
Quick question, Mira. I know earlier this year we had talked about, CPS with the moratorium on fundraisers, but this one is fine, right? Because it's not like a event at school. And okay, not a question, but just a comment. I really think this year of all years, incentivization should be participation based and definitely not financially based. Like I really feel like we shouldn't, obviously we want to fundraise and we need the money. We know next year, as Mira said, the budget, who knows what it's going to be like, but really making it clear to families that participation is what counts, not the amount you give. So just putting that out there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's on there.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It is on the form. I just didn't speak to that, but yes, it's definitely not rewarded based on a donation amount. It's more about kind of connecting back to renaming our school and the values of our school, and those connections and reasons why we support and want to maintain the community that we have.
That's one of my favorite things about the school, is the way that you do that and don't make people feel like they're awful if they can't donate, or that you can buy your way into your kid's principal for the day. So it's really nice the way that you handle that, because I came from a school where it was pretty gross. So good job, everybody.
Any additional questions, discussion? Okay, we'll vote on the pledge drive fundraiser as provided prior to the meeting. We'll vote by roll call. Mira?
Yes.
Lori?
Very yes.
Kirsten?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Mac?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
You guys have from when you work. Did you say Sandra?
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, my dad was talking to me at the same time.
That's okay. Cindy?
Oh, yes.
Kate?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Sandra, what is the count, please?
It's a unanimous 11 yeses, no abstentions, no no's.
Fantastic. Okay. I'm sorry, did someone say something?
Patty said thank you.
I just said thank you.
Oh, thank you, Patty. Okay, the next item is public participation. Members of the public are welcome to make comments and ask questions, but must sign in to participate. Let me pause there. Is the chat, was there a sign up ahead of time? I'm sorry, Mira. There was?
Yep, I'm just pulling it up right now. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. The public is.
Can I just ask one question? So if there's something that comes up in public participation, is there an option to add that back into the agenda for next month?
Yeah, so usually what we've done, sorry, Tina, I don't mean to jump in. Usually what we've done is after public add any, I'll recap or answer questions that I can answer, and then recap things that need to be followed up on as action items for the next meeting.
Okay. Sorry, I apologize.
No, it's all right. Let's see. The public is called upon to speak in the order they signed in. The public is kindly requested to limit their comments and questions to 3 minutes. Based on comments or questions, the principal may address some concerns directly, and if necessary, create an action step for the LSC to follow up with the involved parties at a future date. While the LSC will do its best to address any comments or questions when necessary, more time may be needed to adequately address a particular concern.
So,
okay, Mira?
Yep, so the first person to sign up, John Beck. Can you, sorry, when I call you, can you just unmute?
Sure, thank you. First, I wanted to thank all of the new members of the council and the continuing members for your service. Especially a thanks to Mr. Hall for taking on the FOIA and OMA role. I know you're going to love me by the time all is said and done. I did send you the links to the training while the meeting's been going on. So if you've got any questions, I'm happy to help. On that note, the LSC failed to respond to a December FOIA request that I made and was notified by the Attorney General's office of that breach on January 7th. You guys have until Tuesday of next week to respond to that under the law. So I want to make sure that you have that information. I don't know whether the previous OMA FOIA officer passed that information along or not, but I want to make sure you know that that time is running out. Thank you again to all of you.
Thank you, John. Sorry, hold on, I'm going back. Second to sign up, Hillary Welsh.
Hello, I'm Miss Welsh. I'm the middle school science teacher, and I'm here to speak on behalf of our middle school team about our concerns with CPS's plan to reopen school. We do want to start first by thanking our administration. They've done a fantastic job taking the time to listen to our ideas and incorporate them in the reopening plan wherever they thought was possible. Last week, 87% of Agassiz teachers that were surveyed expressed a lack of confidence in this plan. We feel it is not safe, it will not enhance student learning, and it is not equitable. Teachers are really scared because we know these pods are not going to be the safe little bubbles CPS is portraying them to be. Middle school teachers may see up to 60 students per week. Specials teachers may see up to 120 students per week within their 8 pods. And then they will also be tasked with supervising those students during unmasked lunches. We know our middle schoolers can spread the virus as easily as adults, and we worry that when they congregate before and after school, as middle schoolers inevitably will, that they will not socially distance or wear masks, and this will continue the spread of the virus and bring it into our building. Because 2/3 of our middle schoolers will continue remotely, students will be taught simultaneously, which will decrease the quality of instruction while negatively affecting classroom relationships. Students will have to remain at their desks 6 feet apart, facing the same direction all day, even during lunch and indoor recess. Windows will be open regardless of the temperature outside to help with ventilation, because the HEPA filters that we have been provided are too small and actually aren't even HEPA filters. There will not be small groups or science labs, and we know the bandwidth at school cannot support all students logged into meets at the same time. So this pretty much means that students in the class will not be able to interact with their remote classmates. This will further divide the classroom and disrupt the routines that we have worked so hard to establish this year. Given what their day will look like, we just don't see the benefit for students who choose to return in person. But we do anticipate increased difficulty for our remote learners, who will be forced to adjust to new schedules, receive fewer instructional minutes, as well as reduced attention from their teachers. On a personal level, I am really scared. We are already seeing photos and hearing reports about schools that are not following safety guidelines, cases that are not being shared in a timely manner, and staff that are already having to quarantine. I hate that I'm going to be scared to interact with your children. I hate that I am not going to feel comfortable giving my 3-year-old son a kiss goodnight because he has asthma, and that he is not going to understand why his mommy no longer wants to give him kisses. But what I hate the most is the fact that we have sacrificed so much, and we finally have a vaccine, but the city is continuing to push with this opening plan when it is not safe. So we are asking that the LSC pass a resolution, letting the mayor and the city know that we don't support this current plan. This year, we have had the eyes of the city on us as we have worked to be a model for name change. We have had lengthy debates and discussions about our values as a community and what we want a name to represent. We are in a unique position to speak out against the racial inequity that CPS is continuing to exacerbate with this reopening plan. If we truly care, as we have so firmly stated, about the equity of all students across this city, we will not support a plan that is going to continue to disadvantage our African American and Latinx students while putting the lives of our students and teachers at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary.
I'm sorry, Mira, before we move on, I just want to say this. I neglected to start the timer.
Oh, I can do that.
But I don't regret that. Okay, you know, thank you.
Tina, I'm sorry, I've been timing it, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you.
Yes, and Hillary, you stuck to your 3 minutes, Hillary.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Hillary.
so, yeah, I'll keep an eye on the clock. But.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sorry. Aaron Zarnick.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Ms. Zarnick. I'm one of the kindergarten teachers at our school. And tonight I'll be reading a statement that I've prepared with some of my colleagues in the primary grades pre-K through second. First, we'd like to recognize and thank our administration. They've been providing our staff with time and space to share concerns throughout this planning process, and they've been collaborating with us on our school's reopening plans. We also wanted to express our gratitude to the parents and guardians who have been an integral part of remote learning. It simply just would not be possible without your hard work and support, so thank you. Tonight, I won't address any health-related concerns my colleagues and I have about COVID-19, even though we have many. Tonight, we felt more compelled to share our concerns regarding supporting our students and their learning should schools reopen under the current guidelines. We feel that in order for parents to make a well-informed decision that's best for their child, it's important to consider multiple perspectives and concerns from different stakeholders, including teachers. In the primary grades, we know students learn best through active engagement, hands-on activities, cooperative learning, and play. We know the key to children's success in the classroom depends on a supportive and safe classroom environment and positive relationships with peers and teachers. My colleagues and I have concerns about how effectively we will be able to utilize and implement these best practices to support our students while also adhering to safety guidelines such as social distancing and wearing masks. We question the developmental appropriateness of the learning environment for our youngest learners should schools reopen. And we believe CPS's plan will negatively impact both in-person and remote learners. The following are just a few of the many questions we've been asking ourselves. Will our students' social and physical needs be met if they are confined to a designated desk, socially distanced from teachers and peers for 7 hours a day? How will they handle far less recess, exercise, and play than what they're used to, since physical activity that causes heavy breathing will no longer be permitted in the classroom? Will in-person and remote learners be able to sustain the friendships they've created if CPS's bandwidth will only support a teacher's device on Google Meet during simultaneous lessons? Might there be student privacy and confidentiality concerns regarding having a camera in our classroom for students and families to watch from home? Will teachers be able to provide remote learners with equitable time and attention or quality instruction while we're wearing a mask and managing students in the classroom? In summary, we do not feel confident that CPS's reopening plans will provide a developmentally appropriate learning experience to in-person or remote learners. We question whether this plan is safe for students, staff, and their families, and whether CPS really has children's best interests at heart. We're unsure that anyone's learning and/or emotional well-being will actually improve. And we do also ask our LSC to consider drafting and passing a resolution asking CPS to consider the needs of all students, families, and staff and create a more equitable plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Next is Jessica. I don't know if I saw you sign in. Jessica, are you there?
I'm right here.
There you are. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica Jerfy, and I am the part-time bilingual teacher at our school. I would like to start by saying thank you for letting me speak, and also thank you to our administration for allowing staff numerous opportunities throughout the year to share our thoughts, feelings, and concerns. I'm here today to be the voice of my English language learners and give you an insight on how reopening schools under the current guidelines will affect my students. I provide ELL services for students in kindergarten through 8th grade who come from non-English speaking homes and who are still learning English. Currently, most of my ELL students have chosen to stay remote. If schools reopen, I will be here at school teaching remotely, except I will be doing this with a mask on. I will not be able to pull my students because of the intermixing of pods. Schedules will need to change and my students will no longer be in the same groups they were once in. I will no longer be able to provide the consistency and the routine they are used to and need. Language is one of the main components of my teaching. My students need to hear me, articulate, and in many cases, see how my mouth is moving to say certain words. With the mask on, this will nearly be impossible. Along with providing services for my students, I must conduct state-mandated screening and testing for ELL students. With the reopening of schools, all of this must still occur, except this time it will be more time-consuming. I will need to make appointments with families who are remote to bring in their child, and I will no longer be able to take kids in groups due to the intermixing of pods. All of this will take double the time, if not more. In the meantime, my ELL support and services will need to come to a halt. And the most concerning part is that I don't know for how long. During remote learning, my students have developed friendships with others in different grade levels from different countries with those who speak different languages. They feel safe and comfortable with one another. I have seen my ELL students blossom over the screen socially, emotionally, academically, and I'm fearful that the reopening of schools will hurt all of the progress they have made. Yes, I understand remote learning is difficult on everyone involved, parents, teachers, and students, but I firmly believe that the reopening of schools will bring even more challenges to everyone involved. So I ask the LSC to please consider a resolution plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Next, Lauren Coleman.
Hello, thank you so much. Thank you to I'm Lauren Coleman. I am the parent of Duke Coleman. That's his nickname, call him Duke. He is a kindergarten in Miss Alt's class and is learning to read and write in front of me. I'm every day grateful for the joy that I see Miss Alt and all those families, and probably all of you, but I don't see all of you, bringing it every day into the classrooms and into my home, and I'm grateful. I'm also grateful because I know that the people in your school care about inequity as a core principle, and understanding that we come from our neighborhoods represent or our student body represents 40 different neighborhoods across Chicago, and that we are heralding ourselves as agents of change to ignore the inequity that is inherent in COVID and then ignore it as a school because maybe our staff has done a great job, or our principal and assistant principal have done everything they can to make it safe. But the World Health Organization says that under 5% is what's safe. And the city of Chicago is not under 5% by any means. There is no positivity rate attached to the Chicago Public Schools plan for reopening. That in and of itself goes against everything that the CDC and the WHO recommends. There has to be a limit on community spread, and our school represents multiple communities. I myself am a teacher, and I teach in a community whose positivity rate is currently at 16.1%. There is no metric in place for my school to shut down. There is no metric in place for your school to shut down. There is a false metric called a doubling rate that I don't even want to talk about because it's not real, and no other district uses it to decide whether schools close or not. I also wanted to talk specifically about the measures and mitigations that CPS's plan has tried to force on the public as safety, including what was mentioned earlier about air purifiers. We're told over and over that they have spent $8.5 million on air purifiers that are HEPA rated, and in fact, they do not cover 90% of the square footage of classrooms in Chicago public schools. They are for under 500 square feet. For those of you listening and want to know, they are called the IntelliPure Compact Air Purifier, model 10600-9. 500 square feet will not sufficiently exchange the rate in the air in the rooms at the speed as recommended. They are also not HEPA, even though they're being touted as such, that they say that they are better than HEPA. I don't know what that means. Contact tracing is an enormous issue and flaw within the CPS school plan. There is no robust contact tracing. There is no robust testing. And because of that, there are already cases skyrocketing all over our schools. There are cases where my husband is also a teacher. He teaches at a high school for students with profound disabilities. He just got an email notice because his principal actually is transparent, which I'm sure so many principals are, but so many are not. And we now know that there is a potential case happening in that school. That isn't going to be publicized widely by CPS. The union will publicize that though, but it's also only voluntary. If you volunteer the information that you're positive, then maybe someone in the pod will know. But if you don't volunteer that information, no one is going to know. And I know this personally because someone at my school is dead. And we are not allowed to speak about the cause of death. There is no longer one of our staff members. I also wanted to share just quickly that the education of our students is happening. You guys out there, you're amazing. We have done an amazing job figuring it out mostly on our own because CPS is ill-equipped to make logical decisions. I have a disability, or I have a immune compromised disorder. I am scheduled to return on January 25th to my school. My husband, who is already in the first wave of teachers, has been granted an accommodation because of my disability. And yet I have not been granted an accommodation for my own disability. And I believe that that speaks to the level of capability of CPS to create any kind of plan over the course of these entire school district. So I appreciate your time. I would also like to propose an immediate vote of no confidence in the mayor and their appointed school board and their plan of opening. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Next is Ileana and Cerny. Ileana, are you there? I'm just scrolling through, hold on. Don't think I see her. Okay, hold on, then I'm gonna go back. Dana Carmen.
Hi.
Hi,
I
Dana.
just wanted to say thank you, first of all, to our new LSC and for your time and your service, and welcome. And thank you also to the teachers for speaking up tonight. It's really good to hear. I know a lot of people asked yesterday during Mira's presentation how the teachers were feeling, and I'm really glad to hear the teachers speaking. One of the questions I actually had for tonight was that I know we saw some numbers yesterday regarding how many people were coming back in person, but I was wondering if, like the rest of the district, our school was following along with the majority of those coming back were white. And I was wondering how our school was planning to handle making sure that all students were getting exactly what they needed. My family is staying remote. We chose that from the beginning. We feel that this plan is not equitable in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, the teachers have spoken to that really eloquently, and I don't need to say anything else beyond that, but I did want to say thank you to them again. And thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Dana. Patty Lenkoff.
Hi, thank you to this LSC. I'm very excited to see the new faces, and I'm confident in all of your abilities, and I'm grateful for all the work that you're doing. I know this is a difficult time for everyone. I'm really grateful that the staff, a lot of the staff is here tonight and speaking up. I was wondering as well, I did discuss it with Mira last week when we met. I was curious how everyone was feeling, and to hear from Ms. Welsh that 87% of our staff don't feel comfortable with the reopening plan pretty much sums it up for me. But, you know, there's no right or wrong answer. I think there's pros and cons to having our kids back in the school building, but I feel strongly that if the staff have concerns about many of the issues they explained tonight, but also the level of safety being provided to them by CPS in our school buildings, we can't simply ignore that. The vaccine is so close to being available to many. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask CPS to wait until all school administrators, staff, and teachers who would be working closely with our children have the ability to get vaccinated. They are doing such an amazing job teaching our kids remotely despite the many obstacles. Many of the kids are finally in their comfort zone and in a routine of learning. I recognize that isn't the case for all students, but to be fair, not all students learn best inside a classroom either. That's why this isn't something that's really about right and wrong for all. It's about respecting how our teachers are feeling about exposing themselves to a potentially life-threatening virus. I really hope that this LSC will support the staff's request and send a letter to CPS demanding they reconsider the reopening plan in person. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patty. Molly Alvarez. Molly here. Okay, hold on. Laura Franz.
Hi, thanks for having me. Just a thank you to all the teachers for showing up and just voicing their thoughts. I think we all kind of stand in strength with you guys, and we appreciate essentially putting your health and well-being on the line for our kiddos and doing everything you can for that. So thank you. I did just have a question about reading curriculum, but I'm actually just going to save that. I don't think tonight's the right moment for that, and just keep it focused on what's happening with the school and bigger picture issues with opening. So just a shout out to teachers, and to let you guys know that we support you and here for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Araceli Rivera. No, she's here.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So thank you for the time. I'm just here to talk about the schools reopening. I have 3 CPS students, 2nd grade, 6th grade, and high school freshmen. And like many Latinx families across the city, I've decided to keep my children at home and continue with the remote learning. I made this decision because I do not feel that the CPS schools are ready. I don't think they're properly equipped, and there are simply way too many unanswered questions. I'm extremely worried about my family's health, my health, my kids, my household, which includes several family members. And not only that, but the teachers as well, their health, their kids, their families as well. My children are English language learners who receive language support daily. All of their teachers work together to support their language needs. And now with schools reopening, there will be too many changes that can affect my kids and so many others like them. Their teachers have worked really hard to build an environment that supports them and allows their voice to be heard. They feel safe, they feel comfortable. And as a parent, I find this is so helpful considering everything that's happening around us. So I just think remote learning, although it's not perfect at all whatsoever, but I feel that it's the best option. I am thankful for all the teachers that have worked with my kids, that have helped my kids since they've been there with their language barrier, especially Miss Jessica. So I just wanted to say my opinion. I feel that it's best to just keep with the remote learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Rosenberg.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Rebecca Rosenberg, and I am a DL teacher and case manager. I am speaking on behalf of some of my fellow DL teachers and clinicians who have voiced their concerns and questions to me. I have talked with our admin and our staff, and there are just some questions and concerns that cannot be answered at this time. It takes time and practice to help our diverse learners access the curriculum and make them feel comfortable. There is a concern for the quality of service for our students with this upcoming change. We all know that remote learning has not been ideal for anyone involved, and that's students, parents, teachers, clinicians, administrators. However, over the past months, we have made it work quite well. Students are getting support they need through small groups and have developed routines to navigate through remote learning. Now with the change to in-person learning, in some cases, there may need to be changes of schedules, groupings, service providers, so that we make sure that we continue to provide the students with their IEP services. In addition to the changes in routines, which took time and practice for students to understand and create, we also spent time community building and developing work for students to make progress toward each of their individual goals. Staff and schedule changes will impact some co-teaching partnerships where DL and Gen Ed teachers have been collaborating on planning, instruction, assessments, etc. throughout this school year. There are also concerns about hybrid and remote teaching happening simultaneously. Some DL teachers feel that they won't be able to do as good of a job if they're spending time teaching both groups. Some might think that it won't change that much for remote learning, but it will. Schools will be a noisier place to teach, and all teachers will be wearing a mask. The transition to a new mode of learning is going to hinder students again. There is no getting around this, but to hinder them again and not be able to deliver quality support will have twice the negative effect on DL students. Teaching simultaneously may impact instruction delivery as well as social emotional learning. Our school community values inclusion, diversity, and empathy, and careful consideration was put into our schedule to honor and reflect that. There is a concern that these opportunities may be limited if we need to reorganize for academic services to be equitable across both the hybrid and remote settings. Here are some questions that we have. What is the protocol when students are unable to sit for the whole day for a variety of reasons? Example, they run out of the room, they need to move, they try to get within 6 feet of another person, or are having an emotional episode, and other things that may occur. If a student or a staff member isn't following safety protocols, what actions will be taken? What will services look like for students receiving support in the inclusion and resource settings? What guidance is the district giving us to determine that? Will a private, well-ventilated space be able to be provided for clinicians for therapy and evaluations? Is there district guidance on whether clinicians will be allowed to push into classrooms? Is there guidance on how it will look when pulling kids from rooms, such as coming to get them? And will there be tracking on this? Concerns with speech services being provided with the mask on by the SLP and the students. Is there district guidance with scheduling of related service providers, such as how many clinicians can students see a day? Is there also guidance on how many pods of students can clinicians see a day? And will additional PPE be provided when our supplies run out? Also a concern, as I'm sure many parents, teachers, clinicians, administrators, and students also share, is the safety of returning to school. Illinois is currently, again, one of the states with the most COVID cases. What do we think will happen when we begin to gather as a school, as a neighborhood, as a district, as a state? Based on the CPS numbers regarding returning students and staff, if about 120,000 students and 21,000 teachers return, what do we expect to happen to our net numbers as a state? Over 360,000 students and 35,000 teachers have been doing their part to stay isolated at home for the past 10 months. What happens when most of them return to their schools? Thank you for allowing me to share today.
Thank you, Rebecca. That concludes public participation. So I will just kind of go back. So typically what I do is go back and summarize or answer
Mira,
questions.
Sorry to interrupt, Mira. Is it okay if I speak before you get to that?
Oh, sure.
So I had told Mira I might speak on behalf of the specialists. So you've heard, from the middle school point of view, the DL, ELL, and primary. So I'll try to keep it short. A lot of what teachers have mentioned already are concerns of the specialists too. I first want to reiterate, how much we appreciate the planning that has gone on at the school level between administration and staff. We've had many, many questions for Mira and Michelle that they've tried to get answers to. And I know yesterday Mira shared the FAQs from the parent meeting. And in a way, it was comforting for the staff to see that many of the questions on that FAQ from parents are very similar to our concerns and questions. So it's not just, one group that is concerned, it really is the entire community. Our concerns with the district guidelines from a specialist point of view are that they are unsafe, unsustainable, and inequitable. Unsafe. Currently, I am teaching 435 students a week, K through 8th, and I can do it in a safe manner through remote learning. The district guidelines in the reopening plan suggest up to 10 pods per specialist in a 5 to 10 week period. With our current projected numbers, that would mean we would be interacting with roughly 100 students per day, in addition to the 10 to 15 classroom teachers and paraprofessionals that we would interact with going into each classroom, since specials have to be in the classroom. Specialists could keep teaching remote with support from the district. That was never something that was discussed with the schools. We could still see everyone in the school safely with support from the district by continuing to be remote. This plan is unsustainable. The district has provided Agassiz with 3 additional positions, 1 cadre and 2 miscellaneous employees to help with coverage. I'm not sure where that number comes from, since we have yet to see which staff members are going to have their accommodations approved or denied. I am concerned that if I come into contact and with someone who tests positive and I need to quarantine, I'm less concerned for my health and more who's going to be in the school while I have to quarantine at home for 2 weeks. The district is allowing everyone who's quarantining to teach remotely. If my position takes one of those three extra positions for 2 weeks, who's going to help with coverage in other classrooms? In a regular year, we can help each other out. If there's an emergency, we cover for each other for an hour, we double up the class. That obviously is not going to be an option with our reopening. I'm not sure if anyone saw in the news yesterday at McCutcheon Elementary in Uptown. They have been open for 2 days. The principal and assistant principal are quarantining because they came into contact with a teacher while they were preparing to come back to school, who then tested positive. Nobody's fault, but that's after 2 days of reopening with only kindergarten or pre-K students and cluster programs in the building. Teachers have had to wait almost a month to see if their accommodations are approved or denied. That doesn't make sense. The additional staff should correlate to the approvals of accommodations to help out schools have a sustainable plan. And finally, the plan is inequitable. There has been a big push from the Board of Education, from CPS, that the reopening is because remote learning is not working for our neediest students. I know, Dana, you asked for numbers. Of our students who are planning to return, of our African-American population, only 29% of students are returning to in-person learning. Of our Hispanic students, 39%. Of our diverse learner population, 34% are returning to in-person learning. In contrast, our white population, 60% are returning in person. Our white students represent 35% of our student population, but they are 46% of our returning students. That is not equity. Finally, scheduling, which is also going to be inequitable. With the plan in place, and we have worked as a team to try to schedule things, let's face it, not every child is going to be receiving every special. And so it is an undue burden on the school, on the staff, on the administration to have to make the decision, which student, whether they're remote or in person, gets which special, which student gets this learning and benefits, as we all know, benefits from this learning. In summary, I believe it is our duty as parents, teachers, and community representatives on the LSC to come together and let the district know our students and staff deserve a safe, sustainable, and equitable plan to reopen schools. Obviously, a resolution would have to be voted on in a special meeting, which can be called by our chair or 4 local school council members. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. So that's public participation +1. Anyone else have anything they want to add in before we kind of, I address some of the statements and add action items? Anyone else on the council? Sorry.
I just want to say thank you for everybody who, there's a lot of emotion and I appreciate that. And sometimes people are apologizing. Never apologize for your truth. Thank you for everyone who spoke. And well, I think it's pretty clear how I'm going to feel about a special meeting. So thank you.
Anyone else on the council? And then I'll just try and address.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to all the teachers who spoke. I was really moved by everybody. I've been impressed with all the teachers' dedication and how hard everyone's been working and what a fantastic job they've been doing this year. And it means a lot how strongly they feel. And I think we all need to have a conversation at the end about that special meeting.
I also wanted to echo my gratitude for the teachers and the parents who share their thoughts about coming back to school and not coming back to school and all that it entails and involves. I really am just in awe of the coordination. Every teacher body was represented in this, and just commend that level of coordination. And we're just kind of call to arms to how our families can organize in that same effort.
Anyone else on the council? Otherwise, I'll just, I mean, there's not much to recap because it's primarily the discussion around reopening. But I just wanted to, there was something I flagged that's not about reopening, and that is, John, the email from the Inspector General, the FOIA request that we'll need to follow up on is an action item. Tina, you and I can, I guess, be on that together. Other than that, the discussion, I mean, really is, I appreciate everyone sharing their feedback on the reopening plan. I certainly have been in very close conversation with staff over, you know, well, however long it's been that this plan was rolled out. I don't know. It feels like we've been having conversations nonstop and a lot of planning, and appreciate the collaboration that we have and the dedication of our staff to not only teaching, but also thinking through what this could mean, and always keeping students at the forefront of that feeling, and doing what's right based on what they feel is right for their students, as well as health and safety for sure, but always framing that in the context of, you know, the students that they serve and the families they serve. I want to thank the parents who are here, who also voiced a lot of those concerns, who share those concerns. The gratitude to our teachers. Someone asked at Tuesday with Mira, like, how can we support you guys? And my answer was really flexibility and support. And I still, you know, I shared that with staff, and I think that that holds true. So the flexibility of, you know, whatever happens, knowing it's a learning curve, and the support of just understanding different sides and points of view, because there are many, and many people have said, and I keep saying, there's no right or wrong. Everyone's in a different place for different reasons. And, you know, being respectful of that is incredibly important, especially now. So I want to thank everyone here for sharing those thoughts and feelings. Thank the parents who were at my Tuesday with Mira yesterday around all of these topics. Remind people I'm having another Tuesday with Mira next week that I will publicize this Sunday, just for any updates, and another just space and forum to discuss questions and concerns. And so that's my action item around that. And then for the council, there's, you know, multiple calls for a resolution and on the behalf of an entire LSC. And so that is an action item that would be needing to be discussed by the council, because it obviously isn't on an agenda right now. So it couldn't be an action item that's voted on right now. So I open that for LSC discussion. Or not.
Can we just call them a special meeting?
At first, I want to say, I mean, echo everybody's sentiment regarding the sharing that was done here tonight. You know, Mira, to your point, yeah, we're all in different places, and there's so much to consider with the impact of remote versus in person, different family needs. But I really, really commend the teachers for bringing their input forward. And that's what this whole thing takes. You know, it takes the different perspectives expressed and shared and for consideration, because while I indicated that my child would be returning only to have a choice, she won't be returning. And still, there were so many points that the teachers brought up that I hadn't even thought about. So, I mean, it's just really, I really, really appreciate the transparency. I really appreciate the vulnerability it takes to stand or to zoom in and share that. I feel moved to call a special meeting for us to discuss as a council. And so I don't know how much discussion we need to have here, but I do feel like we need to discuss and act.
Second the motion.
Yes.
Tina, can I just ask, I mean, I think all of us, we need to have a meeting and discuss this. Is there any role for a survey of parents? Just because I keep on hearing the numbers about who's planning on coming back, but everyone I talk to who chose hybrid is reconsidering and thinking that they're not going to be sending their child back just because they're not feeling comfortable with the CPS plan. And also we're in a much different place than we were 2 months ago when people made the decision in terms of how much infection there is out there. Is there a utility in kind of getting a sense from parents about who's even planning on sending their kids back? Because I don't know. Just as we are kind of representing, as parent representatives, we're representing, just kind of to have the information, not that I necessarily think it would change much, but I think it would strengthen if people were to choose a resolution along the lines of what we've been hearing tonight. I think a drastic drop in the number of parents that plan on sending their kids back would be supportive of the LSC writing up that resolution.
You know, that is one thing that Mira mentioned in her, I can't believe that was just yesterday, and the Tuesdays with Mira. The fact that number right now, it is what it is, but it's likely going to be, it's likely padded due to a lot of parents wanting to have the option to make a choice when we get closer. So I think as part of the special meeting, and discussion that Mira, if you could bring numbers that I think you requested that parents update and submit their choice as soon as they can. I believe you encouraged every parent to do it as soon as they could. So that way, at a special meeting, we could have that information.
I can bring up updated numbers. Yeah.
I don't think at this point we can vote on or execute a survey per se. So we're just going to have to, I'll follow up with Mira offline to establish the special meeting, but that would be pertinent information for sure in bolstering whatever resolution we come up with. Oh, and I encourage, knowing that we are moving towards having a special meeting on this, again, I encourage teachers and parents to share, reach out to us via the LSC email or personally, if those of you have our personal emails, please reach out and share your thoughts.
I'm curious, Mira, how if there is there a threshold in terms of number of families who are sending their children, how that will impact, the schools, I don't know if the right word is, the schools requirement to reopen. Is there anything like that?
No, I mean, the decision to reopen is a district decision, so it wouldn't be a school-based decision to reopen. Numbers would dictate kind of scheduling and learning and learning models, numbers for students, and also numbers, I believe it was Nick who spoke to accommodation requests. So number of requests that are granted, number of teachers who would be back in person, as well as number of students in person. But it wouldn't be a matter of do we reopen or not. It would more be what would it look like.
Do you have any idea when those accommodation requests will receive responses?
What we're believed to be so is end of week, beginning of next week. By beginning of next week, families should be receiving from us your classroom assignment and homeroom assignment, so that you would know if there was any change to a homeroom or a classroom or a caseload if you are a DL student or an EL student. So end of week, over the weekend, but in enough time that families are notified beginning of next week.
Just so we note, as of 8 minutes ago, 61 schools have passed and written this kind of statement saying that they don't agree with it. Also, many are also adding on the vote of no confidence in our unelected Board of Education. So the more and more LSCs are putting on these special meetings. They are adding their voice to it. So we by far would not be standing alone in presenting this kind of feedback that this plan is not safe, it is reckless, and it is not equitable. I have an opinion.
Mira, one question. How much latitude does do we have as a school as far as what that reopening looks like? Just totally spitballing here, but I'm sure there are likely families who don't have an option as far as childcare, so to speak, during the day. You know, they have to go to work. I'm so sorry for all that dinging. I don't know how to turn it off. So just wondering how much latitude we have as far as being creative to meet as many community needs as we can.
I guess I'm not sure I understand the latitude in what? I guess I don't know.
Like say for instance, there was a grade where only maybe a couple students were returning and needed to return because their parents don't have a choice of whether or not they can stay home or afford childcare to stay with them. And you know, what's our
well, so what it looks like at a school level, we do have a fair amount of latitude. I mean, and based on numbers, you can do a various number of things. If you still had a teacher in person for that particular grade level, you could still have those students with that teacher that they have been used to. And then that teacher would be teaching simultaneous for kids who are at home. If you have enough students where it's an even split, a teacher could be teaching the kids remotely and one teacher teaching in person so that you don't have the simultaneous. There's a lot of latitude. It's really about numbers and instructional model. And so those are some of the conversations we've been having as a staff. And it really does come down to accommodations and numbers. I mean, that's just, you know, we can't really pencil or put anything in ink because right now there's just different pieces of that puzzle that aren't yet finalized.
Once the staff, auxiliary staff accommodations are in place, is that fixed?
Meaning can like someone apply at any time? Is that what or like, does it come to an end and then they're done and they have to come back?
I mean, if right now you're getting, I've lost my words. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But
I think I understand. I want to make sure.
I just want to make sure, like if the numbers are what we're showing right now for kids returning, that is actually beneficial to adding auxiliary staff. If that staff is correct.
Adding auxiliary meaning the additional positions, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Got you. I'm sorry.
What staff are in place? Is that fixed?
That's a really good question. I think it would be fixed for this quarter until a new survey would come out. So like at the end of third quarter, there'd be another opportunity for families to say we now opt in or we now opt out. Okay. I don't know if that auxiliary number of staff would change at that point based on numbers, but for this particular quarter, I believe they are set.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will look in to make sure I'm accurate on that though, Cindy. I don't know 100%.
I just wanted to add a clarification because I know when I first started here, you know, a few weeks ago that schools were, LSCs were passing resolutions. I didn't quite know what that meant at the time. So having looked into it, just to be clear, we as the LSC, we can't we can't say as an LSC, no, kids are not allowed to come to Agassiz, it's all remote. Our resolution is kind of, as Lori has said, we are expressing our disappointment, displeasure, whatever it is, with our concerns with the current plan. And then, you know, you mentioned the vote of no confidence. But it's basically, we're letting, you know, the mayor, the alderman, whoever needs to know that we are concerned with the plan in place, but it wouldn't affect, well, we don't have the power to shut school down, as an LSC.
No.
Yeah. So just wanted to add that just in case anyone was confused as I was earlier.
And I could share with anybody who wanted to know some of the examples of what other schools are sending. I can send you a link because they've been all sharing them publicly. And so you can kind of have an idea of what other schools are saying.
So I guess
was that all the action items?
Yeah, so I'm just going to recap what I have. One, you and I touching base on the FOIA request. Action items in terms of agenda being Sergeant in Arms, agenda item for standing, talking about what should standing agenda items be. Agenda item for committee selection and discussion. And an agenda item to discuss, like, when would we be talking about the strategic plan, and kind of just setting a timeline for a discussion around that.
I also wanted to have communication. What is our LSC communication strategy on the next?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was kind of lumping that under committee selection, but yes. Communication plan, something to that effect.
Sandra, did you capture all of those, or did you have any questions or clarification needed?
I stopped taking notes at public participation. Okay. Sorry.
I can send you, does everyone agree that those are, I mean, I can just send them to you, Sandra, that's fine.
Okay. I sent you the minutes, but I'll add them to them.
And the recordings are very helpful, trust me. They typically get posted pretty quickly, and they're very, very helpful.
Good tip.
Possibly that reviewing the closed sessions, those.
I can't hear you, sorry.
We need to review closed sessions possibly. Those I think are overdue.
Thank you, Kirsten, that's a good point. Nick or Mira, when you and I get together, Nick, if you could also be part of that as our new FOIA OMA officer. Did you have anything else, Mira? Okay, just a couple kind of housekeeping type issues. Just wanted to remind all council members. I'm sorry, Sarah, did you have something?
Yeah, if we're discussing action items, I know this might have been a carried action item, but it's maybe, do we need to have any discussions about budget approvals? And
Well, that would be
all, but I just don't know if that's something that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically that's always been on our agenda. So I guess until we decide what our standing items would be, I would just, Tina, if you're okay with that, I would just assume have budget stay as a standing item unless we change it, but it's always been. So for the next meeting, if we just have it on, and then if we decide moving forward not to, for some reason, we can change it, but it's always been on. And I just, for purpose of if we need it, leaving it, I think would be beneficial for February at least.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, just like with your principal report as well. I mean, just, certain things need to stay on the agenda for sure. Thank you.
Sounds like, sounds like from what Jose said earlier, like, so again, until we get new bylaws, new agenda, new rules, we're just going with what we currently have. So that would be the default, and then we work from there. So yeah. I think budget, is on the default one.
Just want to remind all council members about the fingerprinting requirement. Even if you have been fingerprinted in the past, you need to be fingerprinted again.
And fill out your information on the pretty form I shared. The Google Doc I shared, if you could put your information in, because I do need to submit that. I can reshare it if you don't remember, but.
And what's the timeline for you submitting that so that we know we get it to you in plenty of time?
I don't have a timeline. I'd have to look at my email. Jose, you can tell me. What's my timeline for getting that in?
Ideally it's as soon as possible. We as you know, organization meetings run from the 11th to 31st. So we're going to start asking LSCs right on the very first week of February. Okay. So yeah, as soon as possible. And I just wanted to add one more thing, if you let me. I think Mr. Hall touched on something very, very important in terms of the resolution that, what the Agassiz LSC will be doing is we'll be voting on the reopening plan district-wide, not on Agassiz per se, right? So it'll be a symbolic vote in support of the teachers, right? So I think that's important to mention, because I know that, as someone mentioned, a lot of schools are voting on the resolution, and it just believe it or not, is creating confusion with some parents. And when some schools vote on, not returning to school, then some parents are actually thinking, okay, I'm not going to send my kid to school next week. So I think that point that Mr. Hall mentioned was very important. Obviously, you'll discuss it on your next meeting. And then in terms of the fingerprinting, I just want to add, yes, normally, and I think Tina, I think I emailed you the response, but normally what happens is during the first 2 weeks of the new LSC members must be fingerprinted. This year, because of the nature of the election, kind of like an unusual year, there's no deadline yet. However, we encourage that, submit your fingerprints and background check as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And congratulations, everybody.
Jose, can I ask a quick question?
Oh, sure.
It makes zero sense to me why I need to get re-fingerprinted when I did it 2 years ago. I completely get doing my background check again, but having to go, I'm a physician, I'm around people with COVID all the time. The fact that anyone's telling me to go spend 20 minutes in a room with anyone to do fingerprints right now seems ridiculous, since my fingerprints don't change. It's usually not something that's repeated.
Yeah, this is, I completely understand. The only LSC members who don't need to get fingerprinted are staff members, teachers, and non-teachers. But in terms of parents and community, it is required that every 2 years for your term, you be fingerprinted. Again, the good thing this year is that there's no deadline yet. So, there's some flexibility on that.
If you could just get me, I completely get running my background check every 2 years. That makes complete sense. But the re-fingerprinting, it doesn't make any sense at all. And so if there's a way to register that complaint, because it just seems like CPS is wasting a ton of money on something that doesn't change.
Got it. No, we'll do. I'll make a note of it. Absolutely.
Jose and Mira, could you help? I can't seem to get any emails from the Office of LSC Relations. I've emailed them several times saying, hey, I've been elected. What do I do? And no one is responding, and I'm not getting any emails. So I'm only learning through Facebook groups, things about
I
it.
can connect you and Jose on an email then, right?
Yeah, we'll connect, but the important part here is that you submit that informational sheet that Mira is going to share with you, because that's what we use, right? So for whatever reason, if we have an incorrect email address, we'll make sure that, your information is correct, and we'll send you information. But yeah, just send me an email directly, J-O-Ortiz3, and I'll make sure I add you to the list.
Okay. Thank you.
I had that problem and Jose fixed it for me in 3 hours flat today.
I'm emailing the wrong person.
Okay. Oh, Nick, did you have something?
I did actually. One more question for Jose, since we have him here. I feel like, this is the opportunity. So Jose, I know that, our chair has expressed interest in calling a special meeting. So I'm pretty sure we can't vote on the date because it wasn't part of the original agenda. Are we allowed to discuss a date, or is that really up to the purview of the chair?
My recommendation is for the LSC chair to reach out to you on an individual basis and just see what day works better for the entire LSC. And then based on the response that she gets, she'll call a special meeting,
Okay, thank you, Jose.
That's exactly the plan. We want to optimize
everyone.
everyone's time.
Right.
And last reminder, the LSC training, again, I strongly encourage everyone to do the FOIA, OMA training, as well as for our, and Jose, please chime in on this. Does everyone need to redo the training, even if you were on the LSC previously, just the regular LSC training, or just new members need to train?
Yeah, so if you joined the LSC after 2016, you don't have to redo the training. But if you're a new member joining the LSC, this week, yeah, you'll need to complete the 9 modules of training. The good thing is that you have 6 months to complete it. And then, you can do it online. So yeah, just the new members, if you already completed them, you joined the LSC after 2016, you're okay.
Okay, thank you, Jose.
You're welcome.
Jose, being new, I have a question about that. Are you going to be sending that information for the training? Because I don't know where to go to take that training as of right now.
I'll be sending communication to LSC members soon this
Okay.
week.
Thank you.
Again, the good thing is that you have 6 months to complete them, but definitely. And another thing that we're going to do too is that we're going to create a calendar of training. So, if for whatever reason you don't, you prefer to have a training session with a facilitator, you can join a session, but you can certainly do it online as well.
So.
Anything else? Anyone? Let me go to the next screen. Everyone all good? Okay. As indicated previously, our next meeting is at 6 p.m. on February 3rd via Zoom. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
I second.
We will vote for the motion to adjourn by roll call. Mira?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion on adjourning? Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Mira?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Kirsten?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Jack?
Yep.
Emily?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes, thanks, everyone.
Kate?
Yes.
And what is the count, Sandra?
Unanimous to adjourn.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And thanks not only council members, but to all those parents and teachers and everyone else who dialed in. And we look forward to your continued engagement. Have a great week, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you.